Hey guys, Tyler with Meeple Mountain here, bringing you another board game review. This time from our friends at Fireside Games, who've given us a copy of Please Don't Burn Down My Village. It's a quick little hand management bidding game for 2 to 5 players where you have some variable scoring conditions at the end of the game. This is super quick. It's what I'd call a filler game. Plays in like 20, 25 minutes tops. The teach is super simple, but it has some fun mechanics and some contemplations to be made as you try to figure out how to maximize your score at the end of this very quick game. So with all that said, let's get to the table and learn how to play Please Don't Burn Down My Village. Welcome to the world of Please Don't Burn Down My Village. In this game, you take on the role of a desperate village elder, convincing this local dragon to spare your innocent populace of flame and destruction. If you can cobble together enough goods and convince the dragon of their worth, then perhaps you might be spared his wrath. Not so lucky for those who don't convince him, though, so you want to make sure you put your best goods together. You've cobbled together every crown and relic and potion and scroll that you can find within your confines of your village, and taxed your people probably too much, and are trying to desperately convince this dragon to leave you alone. So, how do we do that? Please Don't Burn My Village is played in a series of rounds where players each take turns making bids and collecting cards that they'll play from their hand to convince the dragon of the worth and value of that particular card. The more cards you play, the more your particular item might be worth. But mind you, you also need to go to the shop to refill your hands and get additional items. And every time you do, certain cards may make your item worth less. So you could be cooperating and working with your fellow players to make a particular item very valuable, or someone might be working to sabotage you and convince the dragon that whatever you've brought just isn't that valuable, driving its price down. When this deck of cards runs out and we need to draw additional cards, the game ends immediately and we score our cards based on the prescribed value at the top of the dragon track based by how many cards that we have in our bids, and we'll lose points based on how many are left in our hands by the same value metric. So this is a variable scoring game of hand management where we try to figure out how to get the most cards played for the most value possible. Now, we're going to go ahead and jump in and take a look at some of the bites, but effectively there are 3 actions that you can do on your turn. That is bidding to please the dragon. So you're going to be playing cards from your hands of one of the suits available and shown there. We have swords, potions, phoenix feathers, scrolls, axes, and crowns. And you'll choose a number of cards from your hand that match that type, including any wild cards like this one shown here, which is of course just money. And you'll move the value of that particular item up that many slots. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Secondly, you can go to the market to try and buy additional cards, adding them to your hand and paying a cost as shown by the number of cards in the market above. And finally, you can just draw a card to try and kind of stall and fill your hand up a little bit. Because remember, you don't want a ton of cards in your hand at the end of the game because those are negative points. Once this is all done, again, we tally up our score and see who comes out on top. So let's jump in and take a little closer look at how the mechanics of each turn go. Here we have a zoomed in view of the main player board and one player's hand of cards that they would of course keep secret in a game of Please Don't Burn My Village. Now, the first action you can take is Bribe the Dragon. It's composed of 3 steps laid out on your player aid for you, but effectively you're going to choose a card type and how many cards you want to play down into your bribe. So let's say I wanted to do Phoenix Feathers. I could choose any number of these, but I'm going to play 3 cards from my hand down into my play area as a bribe, trying to convince the dragon that these are the most valuable things that he would want. So for every card I play, I'm going to move the value marker up 1 space for the Phoenix Feather, which would be 3 pips, moving it to the top, the most valuable section there, and moving everything else down. So I've adjusted the value of half the board, really, by playing those 3 cards. Now, I could include wild cards if I wanted. You can never play them by themselves. You could include them, though, to move that marker even further, but you can never play them by themselves, and it will never go farther than 4, so there's really no reason to do that, probably. These guys will sit there, and if the game ended right now, I would score 4 points for each Phoenix Feather in my bribe area because I have moved it to that marker. Now, if I play additional future bribes and future turns of Phoenix Feathers, they will just add to this stack. So I might have 10, 15 Phoenix Feathers by the end of the game because I just keep playing that type of card. They'll stay there and they'll score at the end of the game based on wherever the Phoenix Feather goes. Once you've done that and you've gained the dragon's favor, you have to add cards to the black market until you get a card that shows the suit of the card you just played. So it's a little bit of a variable timer. You don't really know when the game's going to run out, and you're just going to flip cards until you get a card that matches the type that you played. Now, I just did that in 3, so I'm done. That would end my particular turn, and we go to future players. But let's say another player came up or it came back to me, and now I wanted to try to gain things from the black market. So what I'll do first is I'm going to buy cards. I'm going to choose one of these markets to get. Now, the number above the market is how many cards I have to discard. So for instance, I could discard a potion, and I could discard a wild card, never wilds by themselves. I could discard these for 2, and I could now take this 2 card here, and I could add these phoenix feathers to my hand. You obviously see I have a trend here. I'm trying to collect all the phoenix feathers. So we could do something like that, which would allow us to buy and purchase those cards. Now, the next thing to note is once we've done that and we've discarded these, the card that's on top is going to get cursed. It's going to reduce the value of that particular item. So in this case, we're going to move potions down and adjust their value. So someone might start doing that with phoenix feathers to drive my value down, and things can continue to adjust in both purchasing cards and bribing the dragon with those cards. And these just kind of go to a general discard pile over on the side here. And that is how you would go to the black market. The last thing that you could do on your turn is just choose to draw a card. Just straight top deck a card, add it to your hand. You don't want a ton of cards in your hand. So as this fills up, as you can imagine it would do very quickly, you may not want any of these. You may want to just, as the game gets closer to the end, just take a singular card so that you have less cards to manage in your hand when the game ends. Now, it's worth noting when we go to the black market, the 0 costers are just free. You just take them, but you also don't curse anything because you didn't discard any cards. So that just would come to my hand, which of course is also appealing for my character. Now, at the end of the game, again, the game ends anytime we need to draw a card and we can't. So if we need to refill the market, if we need to do the draw, whatever it is, if we can't draw a card, the game ends automatically. So that would be when we'd score. We'll score the things in front of us, positive points based on the track up here. And anything in our hand, we'll lose 2 points for each wild card or coins in our hand. And then we'll lose a number of points equal to their value of anything else. So this is a tricky game in the sense that you really want to minimize your hand while making sure you have enough to control what is scoring the most points for you. And you may find that it's good to diversify and have lots of different things to try and get several high placing sets. You may try to do what I kind of showcased here of just really tripling down on one thing and trying to make sure you score a ton of points off one thing. But of course, that's an all your eggs in the basket situation. So there's a lot of interesting choices to be made here. But again, the teach is really simple. On your turn, you have really one of 2 actions with a draw card option. Is kind of a 2.5. And that's pretty much all you do is manage your hand to try and get these bids to manipulate the market to be as valuable for you as possible while stopping your opponent from making those scores as well. And that is everything that you need to know to jump in and have a really good time with Please Don't Burn My Village. And it always says, please don't burn, not burn down. So maybe he just wants to toast him a little bit. I'm not sure. But this was a really fun little game. I like Fireside Games. I've always liked Castle Panic. It was one of the early games I got into. So it was kind of fun to just see something else in that art style, in that universe. This is just a fun little silly filler game, truly. It plays super fast. There is some strategy for sure, but it is on the lighter side of things. But it's nice. It's super easy to teach. Any gaming group could pick this up and have a pretty good time with it. Again, there's not a ton of depth here. Certainly don't expect there to be any expansions here in the near future, but it is a fun little game that plays pretty unpredictably because you may not know when the game is going to end. You might think, oh, I've counted the cards. I've probably got 3 or 4 turns to manage things, and somebody goes on a rampage trying to get a card that matches the card they bribed with, and there just aren't any. And you run the whole deck out and you're done. So there is a bit of a card counting element. It's probably the most fun piece of this is you can try to set up kind of like traps where you manage the cards in a way that it's highly likely you'll run most of the deck out really quick so people have less turns than they accounted for, and that can be really fun. And with big groups, because again, this plays up to 5, if you have 5 people, you don't get very many turns. So it is a nice, quick little game to play in between games as a palate cleanser, or just when you're in a pinch or out at the pub or something and want something pretty quick to put up, get out there and play and then move on with your day. So this is a fun little title. I'm really appreciative that Fireside sent it to us to review. And I hope that this kind of gives you a good perspective of what to expect in the box and how it plays and if it's a good fit for your group or not. Certainly, given its size, it's not going to break the bank. It's a very budget-friendly option. And the rulebook was quite simple and laid out. There wasn't a lot of questions about setup or rules, but again, because it's on the lighter side, of course, it's easier to kind of get into those digestible formats. But all that to say, I really enjoy it. I think it definitely fits that niche in the filler game slot in your collection. And I hope that it's something that you guys will want to check out. So I want to thank you guys for coming to Meeple Mountain. I hope you'll continue to do that for all of your board game related needs. We're putting out some really cool stuff. We got a couple new promos behind us as well that I'm excited to launch and show you guys really, really soon. Surprise, surprise, we might be looking at a pretty heavy game here in a minute. But yeah, check it out. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Drop us a like. Let us know if there's something you'd like to see reviewed specifically. We're always looking to make more content because we love games just like you do. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. And as always, happy gaming.
Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out these links to find some other games you might want to bring to the table. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.